Hi there, this is Cheryl Driskell with the Canadian School of Naturotherapies. I'm going to be going through another audio lecture for you today, and this one is called When Bad Things Happen and Challenges Must Be Faced. Or I've also called it Facing Great Challenges Well. How do you face a great challenge well? Oh boy. Yeah, we've all had those experiences where we just keep shaking our head going, why is this happening to me or my family or the person around me? It doesn't make any sense. This is exhausting. This is terrifying. How am I going to get through this? How are they going to get through this? Could you please make some sense of it? And I really have to look firstly to this idea that we actually in our culture expect everything to flow without trauma or suffering. We're very big on making sure that everything's in perfect order. And we came into a very profound world, and the acceptance of things being hurtful is hard to bear. But we do have this kind of a wild energy world where good and bad things happen all the time, where life and death occurs, where traumas do occur, and we're not terribly accepting or capable of managing those difficult times. And that's the key to any type of path that we take, that we have to learn how to manage difficulties well and really ensure that we're going to get through this without too much struggle. Now, I was not very good in the beginning of managing a lot of stress and fear. In my 20s, I found it incredibly hard to exist at all because this was the era of the AIDS epidemic just starting out, and I was terrified to learn the several people around me who ended up with HIV and then AIDS and then passed away, all within 5 years of each other. And I didn't know how to cope with that. I didn't know what was going to come next. It was a slaughter. It was just horrifying because that was just my little community. Imagine the other communities. I heard some people had lost 50 friends at a time in any couple of year period. So I wasn't sure how to handle that. I pretty much shut down. I'd also lost another friend to a crisis, a trauma, and I wasn't ready to take that on. And so I spent the next decade endeavoring to find out how to manage life better. And it's gotten much better. I certainly handle crises a lot better in terms of my emotional ability to look at it with new eyes and an open heart. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about what that is and how I managed to do that. It starts with looking at the universe's energy and not giving it good or bad, right or wrong. Looking at it as energy that has a specific way of being. Okay? So we'll follow up with that as we go along here. So I think that a lot of us reach out to a God or a loving source during these difficult times. And I see the universe as very loving and compassionate, even though it is, to me, energy. Whether you call it God or Allah or the Tao, etc. It is energy to me, and that has made it a lot easier to handle. So when I discuss why difficult challenges occur each day to even the most loving and thoughtful beings, I begin at that place, noting that the next step of that loving energy is the embracing of our human consciousness, to use our consciousness and to transform the energies of the universe with it. So there's higher and lower frequencies at all times in our universe, and within the one potential energy, within all that is. So if you look at a glass filled with water, imagine that water is all that there is, and there's different vibrational frequencies within that water. And we as humans are responsible, as a part of the evolving structure of all universes, to transmute the lower energies through us. So we take the bad and we turn them into reflections that can be positive in their final outcome. So we're taking something very destructive, potentially, and turning it around into something creative and possible and not so painful. So that really helped me to know that I could actually take the darkest moment and turn it into something light and loving. And that's what happened on 9/11. When the towers came down in New York City, we took one of the darkest moments in our history and turned it into something compassionate and loving for a lot of people. And yes, there was the dark side too, so to speak, where a war was created out of that. And compassionate people came back again to say, no, that's not okay. So compassion always wins out in the end. But, there will be trying circumstances as people try to evolve through the darker energies, through the heavier energies. I don't see this as good and bad in terms of lighter and darker. I see this as just as heavy and thick, hard to work through energetically, to being moved through, transmuted into the higher, compassionate survival energies, the greater ones that help us get through everything. So, we as humans are responsible as part of the evolving structures of all the universes to transmute these lower energies. In doing so, we experience what would be perceived as negative experiences. So our higher frequencies try to become even higher. And so we meet the lower frequencies, not only to transform them to higher ones for the good of all, but to raise their vibrational level as part of our own personal journey. So when you have a troubling time, don't you want to take it from its heaviness into the lightness? And that's what we're called to do. You see how we all go through this all the time, right? Even if you say you got a lower mark on an exam, wouldn't you want to move that mark up to the next place? It means hard work, but it also means that you're going to feel better, you're going to feel happier, you're going to feel lighter. It means taking the heavy and moving it into the light, right? So when our own frequency meets a lower frequency, the lower one will immediately begin to yield to ours. And at times this will even seem to flow with ease, such as the experience of bumping into someone while walking through the supermarket, or your child spilling their milk and you assisting them and cleaning it up without concern. That's moving a lower frequency into a higher frequency right there. Isn't that fascinating? It's so simple. If there is a challenge in the moment and something falls and breaks, your response, without becoming negative and reactive, but responding with your heart open, will move the lower experience into the higher outcome. That's how we begin to see real changes from difficult circumstances. And that's a very simplistic idea, but it can help us move on from there. So there's going to be trying times of energy transmutation where your frequency are asked to raise up significantly and quite quickly. The crisis of 9/11 was one of those times when the whole world looked upon chaos and fear and opened their hearts to raise their vibration. Then the flooding that occurred a little while ago in Pakistan. A lot of people donated and supported the individuals there. The tsunamis that have hit Japan and other countries since then have asked us to open our heart. We've taken a very difficult, heavy, horrifying situation, and we've provided compassion and love and nurturance to entire communities and countries. So you have taken lower energies and vibrated them, transmuted them into higher frequencies. That's what we do as human beings. That is our energy function. And it makes a big difference in how you see the world if you don't turn it into, oh my God, energy. Oh, I can't believe that happened again. We have to become responsive beings, not overly reactive beings, but beings of love who say, this is the way of the universe. It happens this way. Because we're not yet aware of all the finite details of why things happen. If we knew that we could stop it, we would stop it. We don't have that ability yet. One day we will. One day we'll know and understand the way the energy of the earth works, and the seas and the oceans. to stop certain tragedies. And one day we'll know something's going to happen, and we'll be able to stop that in advance. Sometimes I'm able to do that. Now I'll tell people in advance, don't go to work at this time, go this time, or you have an energy of an accident coming your way in your fields, and I help them release it. That's part I do as an energy therapist and as an intuitive. And there are things that I can help because we can get to the energy before it becomes a trauma. So, but most of us can't do that. So that's why we need to be aware that we can turn difficult situations into something not so difficult. So, what do you do about those moments, though, that seem personally unbearable? When you've lost a loved one, or your house burns down, or you've lost the love of your life to a breakup, or now you're seeing children on every second weekend. How do you explain these moments of crisis to yourself? And how do you survive the grieving process? So some of us are going to cry out to the source that we believe created us and ask, what in the universe is going on for us to deserve this? Or perhaps we'll receive it with quiet resignation, but fill ourselves up with suffering anyways and make ourselves sick. I have to say that was and is sometimes still my process, but I try to move beyond that by moving into the higher frequencies. I can only share with you how I have over time come to manage most of those experiences. Not all, but most of them. It's much easier than before. So here's some ideas. And pause your audio if you feel that it's important to you to remember this idea, okay? So I no longer persist in the belief that there is someone other than me to take care of me, or that there is a greater being than myself who's watching over me and would allow something horrible to happen to me. I don't believe any being would let something horrible happen to me, and that there is anybody else but me in that moment to make sure. Now me, in my greatest connection to the all that is, which I believe is love and compassion. So this is not me dismissing anything beautiful and loving being there for me. It's that I have the will and I have the way to connect to the all that is for support and understanding. But I'm not going to pretend that I'm just going to sit there and wait for something to help me. I have to help myself. So I fully accept, this is the second point, I fully accept that energy will always act in a specific way. It will always change and recreate opportunities in a frequency beyond the one that I'm experiencing in that moment. As such, I know that the next moment will be different and that tomorrow can be better. Okay, so I don't stay stuck. I don't wallow. I don't get stuck in self-pity. I recognize that right away. This is going to change. All energy changes all the time. Cannot be destroyed, but it will change. And if I want it to be recreated into something positive, I just have to say, I want to recreate this into something positive. I want to pull myself through this gently and lovingly with Source, the loving, compassionate Source, into a frequency beyond the suffering that I'm experiencing in this moment and move into a higher potential reality. And it starts to happen. Okay? So the next point, the third point, I also accept that my life is no more valuable and important than the person's next door. My life is equal to theirs. I can be as imprudent at times as the next person, and yet equally as capable of changing my circumstances by changing a thought or making a decision and using my will and my heart to move it forward. I am no more valuable than you or anybody else. And I am equally as capable of changing my life circumstances. Okay? It does take just one thought change to start you moving in the healthy, healing direction. You don't have to get over everything right away. Some people feel devoted to the agony because it's easier sometimes just to stay there and feel the guilt and the shame or the poverty or the loss or the emptiness. But in the end, it would be to your advantage and the greater good of all those around you if you could gently and lovingly, slowly recognize that you can change this. You can move the mountain that you need to move. Make one thought change and then see what comes next. The next thing I would do is I accept that life has a flow and a balance to create. It's in flow. The universe is in flow, and it has a balance to create. And am I going to get in the way of that balance? And if I am, I'm blocking a lot of potential, and I'm going to get pushed. I'm going to get pushed and pushed and pushed until I wake up. So I can flow with the energy that we view as life and participate in that balance by being a witness instead of attaching to what I had and wanting to hold on to it. Or I can fight against change and the potential that this obstacle is calling me to run with, leaving myself stuck all over again. So don't fight against change and possibilities and movement forward in life, because that's life. That's the way it works. If you haven't accepted that, that's part of the suffering that we endure in this world, that we don't accept that suffering is there, and that we have to be willing to accept it. Accept that it is there from time to time and it will pass. We have to be willing to accept that. We are amazing beings. We can change the energy from the most hellish of energies into something very light, bright, and positive. Turn it into something great. I have family members, and they are amazing to me. They lost a beautiful young 14-year-old daughter who was deeply adored and loved, and a special, beautiful young woman. And it was heart-wrenching and heartbreaking for everybody. And they took that pain and they turned it into hundreds of thousands of dollars raised for the children's hospital that took care of her, to do more research. And it has been a miracle for countless individuals in the research department of that hospital, as well as the individuals who continue to need the services there. And they developed a run where they would raise money by running. And they raised a lot of money over the years, over a period of 10 years. And their love is still strong. But they had to use their gifts to move the lower frequencies of pain and suffering into something positive, and it changed their lives and a lot of other people as a result. So we don't want to stay stuck. We want to move things forward. And that's our greatest potential. And then I would say to myself, if bad things continue to occur around me, I would say, what am I perceiving about myself and my environment that would allow me to see all things as being disproportionate to my inner desires? And then I would ask myself why I was not creating positive outcomes if my desire was really to be positive. So we want to get better, we want to feel fine, we want to move the mountains, we don't want to be stuck, but we stay stuck. So what am we doing? So then I would change the various thoughts. I might write down my constant thoughts, write down 5 of the most common thoughts that I seem to be sharing in my head over and over, and change them, turn them into something different. Rather than saying to myself, I'm always falling apart, my body's always tired, I would say, I'm so grateful that my body's stronger and stronger each and every moment. And I would take the action to make my life become more positive by recognizing that my consciousness can create a very loving outcome. So these are just some of the ways in which you can take a difficult moment and turn it into something positive. And I have a little affirmation that I've used in the past, something that you can work with and maybe manipulate a little bit for your own circumstances. But I might say, loving source, or all compassionate energy of the universe, or God, or whatever, I choose to open my heart for love to flow freely through and allow all good vibration to reside within my being and my environment. I'm going to say that again. Loving Source, I choose to open my heart for love to flow freely through and allow all good vibration to reside within my being and my environment. And then when I feel the surrender to this energy, I can cry or smile and take the next step in allowing love to flow through me in awareness that all energy, becoming light and love, can shine through for the good of all. So that's it for now. If you have any comments, please feel free to send them along to information@CanadianNaturotherapies.com. That's Naturo, Naturo, therapies.com. And I really do hope that you will see that you can move the lower energies that you're experiencing into high frequency energies that are love and joy and compassion for your highest good and for the good of all. Many blessings from myself, Cheryl, and the Canadian School of Natural Therapies and Spiritual Development. Have a good day.